My name is Nick. I am an addict, alcoholic, and an asshole. I'll be reading Chemically Dependent Anonymous, Step 1. We admitted we are powerless over mood-changing and mind-altering chemicals and that our lives have become unmanageable. We who are recovering from dependency upon mood-changing and mind-altering chemicals are generally able to pinpoint the moment at which we finally said, "That's it. I can't take any more. Chemicals are in control of my life. I cannot stop on my own. I need help." We call this moment our bottom, for we have seen that with recovery we need never sink to the depths to which our chemical dependency took us. We have also seen that without this admission of powerlessness we have little hope of such recovery. Why the need for this admission of powerlessness? Surely chemicals have beaten us down enough. Why make it worse by talking about how hopeless we are? Besides, there are those of us who were not always powerless. Early in using and from time to time later on, some of us could control our use of chemicals and its consequences. Why not simply say, "Sure, I've got a problem with chemicals," and leave it at that? Step 1 comes first because it is the foundation upon which chemical-free lives are built. We need to admit our powerlessness so that we may become willing to do whatever is necessary to recover. The process of recovery is found in the 12 steps. However, while simple, the steps are not easy. It is our experience that those who have some reservation, who hold on to the belief that they may be able to use chemicals safely someday, will not be honest, open, or willing enough to walk the difficult but essential path of the remaining 11 steps. When we do take an honest look at our use of chemicals, we begin to see our powerlessness. How many times do we say, "I'll just have one drink, toke, shot, line, or hit," yet found ourselves loaded again? How many times do we set out to control our use, yet days, weeks, or months later realize we were worse than ever? How many times did we hurt others and ourselves as a result of using, yet turned around and used once more? We even tried using, combining, or eliminating different chemicals in an effort to convince ourselves that we were not chemically dependent. Inevitably, these efforts failed. To most of us, the powerless was not as obvious in our early days of using. Whatever our reasons for using chemicals, to enjoy ourselves, to go along with our crowd, to mask our pain, to build our self-confidence, we generally got what we wanted out of chemicals. We could use or not use, and the price of using was not too high. However, this was the beginning of a fatal progression. As it continued, we used more chemicals more often to less effect. The worse our dependency became, the harder it was to stop. In the end, we were left with no power whatsoever. We now believe that this progression into utter powerlessness is the result and the sign of the disease of chemical dependency. We believe it to be a physical disease that consumes every part of us. Our bodies react to chemicals by craving more. Our minds are warped into denial and sick thinking that support our continued use. Our spirits are dulled, damaged, and eventually crushed by the punishment exacted in our lives from the consequences of continued use. We have no more power over our chemical dependency than the blind have over sightlessness. We are powerless whether the chemicals involved are street-type drugs, alcohol, unnecessary medications, or any combination of these. When we admit that we are powerless over chemicals, we also need to admit that our disease has made our lives unmanageable. We have seen that we can no longer determine what, when, where, how much, or with whom we use. We need to see that our actions and attitudes are out of control. The getting and using of chemicals became our number one priority, regardless of the consequences. This pursuit took us to places we never would have gone had it not been for our using. Our Skid Row or shooting gallery may have been an actual physical place or the emotional equivalent within us. When we have been horrified by our actions to the point of despair, we are ready to admit the unmanageability of our addiction. Many of us had balked at this, believing that we were not that bad. Some of us had lost all. However, many of us still had some or all of our outward lives intact. We may have hoped that we could clear up this little chemical problem and then move on. We had to become fully honest with ourselves about the effects of our chemical dependency had on our lives, whether outwardly or inwardly. Unmanageability may show itself in any facet of our lives. We may have lost our jobs, our ability to work, our families, our lovers, our possessions. Perhaps we still had these things, but there were problems between us and the boss, the teacher, the spouse, the lover, the creditor, the police officer, or the judge. There may have been no visible threat in these areas, yet we were restless or worried. Most of us, regardless of the state of our outward lives, suffered inwardly. We knew that we were not meeting our responsibilities or living up to our potential, and our self-respect was going or gone. Our ability to deal with life on a daily basis was compromised. Our behavior was generally erratic, immature, and self-centered to the extreme. We alternated between height of egotistical folly and depths of self-hating remorse. Materially intact or not, we were emotionally confused and out of control. We needed to admit that our lives were unmanageable to whatever degree due to our chemical dependency. Often it was the unmanageability in our lives that brought us to the point of seeking help. We knew that something or everything was going wrong, and we finally admitted that this was due to our use of chemicals. However difficult this admission, it opens the door to a new way of life. We are not responsible for the disease, but we are responsible for our recovery. How well we say, "I cannot do it alone, but I alone can do it." Once we are willing to take responsibility for our recovery, we are able to seek and receive the necessary help. Having admitting our powerlessness and unmanageability due to the use of chemicals and the disease of chemical dependency, what next? We have given up the idea that we can use without losing control. We have taken the difficult but necessary step of asking for help. In active dependency, if we are powerless over chemicals and our lives are unmanageable, our own power is insufficient to recover. We have come to CDA to find a power that will suffice. If we have truly taken step 1, we are ready for step 2.